Right, Mr. Khorana, so if you could tell us about your existing projects.
Sure. We are a part of PayU India. PayU India is actually a part of PayU Global. PayU Global is present across 18 geographies. We are one of the biggest payment organization at a global level, and PayU Global is a part of Naspers Group. So Naspers is headquartered in South Africa. We predominantly dominate the market in mobile, internet, and payments kind of domain. In India, Naspers have investments in certain organizations and 100% owned organizations as well. So PayU is the payment asset that Naspers have. And so few names are like GoIbibo, OLX. We have investments in Flipkart. We've acquired Redbus and multiple more organizations from a Naspers standpoint. Coming back to PayU, PayU is actually a payment asset of Naspers Group, and we started our operations in India in October 2011. The way we operate is that we started up with e-commerce as one of the focus areas, which still continues to be the area. And we found that there was a major need of a company like us because people were not having a great time while making a payment. Their payment journey was not as seamless or simple. And we proved it because today we are the number one player in e-commerce category. We have market share somewhere north of 42% in the e-commerce. So I can say that roughly around 7 out of your 10 payments which you make today online are processed using my payment gateway. And in early 2013, we started up with another vertical, which was the non-e-commerce side of the world, just to categorize the word non-e-commerce, which had verticals like education, telecom, bill payments in terms of government and utility payments, insurance payments, real estate payments. Now the interesting part is that why did we venture out here? Was there a need, or there were existing players who were already there? So why? So if you talk about today's forum, if you saw what we all are experiencing today is education. I believe there is a big need because still the systems, the organizations who are education institutions here, what we are talking about or referring to they are still collecting payments traditionally. When we say that they are growing organically, they are growing in terms of technology advancements. My question to them is, why aren't we growing in terms of collection of fees online when it can make both? That means the parents, the students, plus the institution itself life easier. So if you broadly see, what are the components of the ecosystem in education while you're making a payment? There's an institute, there's a student who's studying, and there is a parent who's making the fees, who's paying the fees. Right. And then at the back end, there are banks and all which are kind of processing. Now, if a student have to pay his fees, what is the process? Let's understand this. He's going to tell his father or parent that, can you send me a demand draft? The parent will go to the bank, get the demand draft. Hopefully he won't do a spelling mistake, and courier the demand draft received by the student. Student stands in the queue, deposited the draft, collects the receipt, thank God. What happens at the institution ends? They collect the pile of demand drafts which has been submitted till the time the education fee cycle ends. And then they send a runner to the bank, or in certain big institutions there's a bank inside the university, but that is not the case of every university. The runner goes, deposits the draft or the check or cash, and then that gets cleared within 6 to 7 working days.
Ancient way of doing it.
So the question is why? Right. When now you can book your air tickets online, when you can book your movie tickets online, when you can make your bill payments online, so why not education? So we questioned ourselves, we challenged ourselves. And then we actually went into the nitty-gritties of it. As what we personally believe is that there are 3 ways of learning. Either I learn by your own experience, or I learn by learning and reading, or I learn by doing it. So the strongest learning is by doing it yourself. So we actually went to institutions and we asked them that why don't you collect payments online? And they gave us some very interesting insights which helped us to make the product. So they said there are two challenges. One, the documentation that a payment gateway asks is like very, very tedious, and they don't want to open up all their documents to a third party.
Right.
Very valid point. Second is that the investments that a payment gateway will ask from a technology standpoint, because somebody will say, I need I need couple of servers from you, I need this certificate from you in terms of security, I would need this thing from you. We don't want to do that. We don't want to take the hassles of it. Fair enough. It took us four months and we built up a product which helped the ecosystem at a macro environment. We went to the regulators and banks, and we actually limited and minimalized the documentation which is required by a merchant or by an institution to open the payment gateway today. And we have made the system so beautiful and so simple that if you have a website, it's just an HTML button. The way you plug in your USB, we will just give you a small HTML button which you can just put it across your website, and we'll take care of everything. We did this in 2013, and today we are number one in education. We provide our payment gateway services to somewhere north of 6,500 institutions across the country.
Okay.
In less than 2 years. And the way this is progressing is phenomenal. But said that, is the universe over? Not really. Actually haven't even started. I'll throw some numbers.
Yeah, if you could talk about the charges.
Right? No, not the charges. I'll throw some numbers on the ecosystem, then I'll come to the charges.
Let's talk about the charges as well.
The charge is very, very phenomenal. Even if the parent has to come to the school and do these things, he is going to park his vehicle or burn his gas. That would be more expensive. What we charge is actually less than 20 rupees per transaction that a parent have to pay.
Okay.
Right? And he can just make the fees payment online. Right? So the charges are very, very minimal. The focus is very clear. We are not creating $1 million or $1 billion number from education. Yes, it is a business. End of the day, it's a business vertical. But this is not something where I'm parking my dollars when it comes to generating revenue from education as a vertical. Right? The bigger problem is that we are trying to solve is at a much more macro or at an industry level. Right? Once if the user becomes habitual of seeing us, trust us, they believe in what PayU is trying to offer, you will be very happy to make your purchases online, right, while transacting PayU, and I anyways dominate that market.
Right.
Right.
So at present, do you have any existing university or any education entity?
Yes, as I said that we work with more than 6,500 education institutions in the country. So you talk about any big name, you talk about Amity, you talked about DPS societies, you talked about SRM University in Chennai, there's Anna University, there's Punjab Technical University, there's whatever name that comes to your mind who's collecting payments online, very high probability or with a lot of assurance I can say they'll be using our services. So like we work with I believe 6 IIMs, we work with some 4-5 IITs or something. So all these prime institutes, they are all using our PG services. It's because of the product, it's because of the service that we deliver.
So you have already captured the premium institutes. What next? I mean, which particular universities or entities you're targeting?
What next? Okay. Let's talk about K-12. The way we look at it is that there's ancillary institutions, there's K-12 and there's higher universities and institutions. If I put all three of them together, the total number of institutions only in India will be around 4.8 to 5 million. If I talk about K-12, they'll be somewhere around 1.53 million. Now, 1.53 million vis-a-vis a 6,500 number. So I have a whole bunch of universe to actually cover, right? Out of these, say 1.5, 78% of them are government aided universities. or institutions.
State run,
Yeah, state run, state or central, or some at some areas there could be also municipal corporations run, and the remaining 22 are private. So 22%, even say 20% of 1 million will be somewhere around 2 million. Right? So you know the potential we are talking about here. First. Second, 268 students are studying in this university. That means 268 parents are actually making their fees online, making their payments, right? So if I talk in terms of number of consumers, I think it's a triple marathon or something we'll have to run.
Absolutely.
Right?
So you'll be making the best use of the population of India. Right?
Oh, absolutely. And the biggest advantage is that, thanks to our regulators and the bankers who've done a phenomenal job of increasing the debit card penetration. Last, when I recalled, I think the number of debit cards was somewhere around 432 million, right? That's the debit card penetration that we have in the country. And the debit card rates are very, very economical. They're regulated by RBI.
That's right.
Right? So people prefer making their payments via debit card, and it's just so simple, right? That's one thing. The other thing which we have seen a lot of traction is actually the pains of people are replacing EMIs with a payment gateway now. What happens is that today if I have to take an education loan, people have to submit a lot of documentation. There's like a whole lot of process which is oriented. They break them into credit card and part payments, and they just gave us a standing instructions for it. So we are enabling such kind of processes or products so that a lot of ease is given even to the parent themselves. So they're very happy and very, very adaptive to what we have to offer them actually.
Well, with so much numbers in place, is there any plans of corporate social responsibility to put back in education?
Absolutely. Last year we did a activity called as Color My Life, which was in association with MasterCard, and we had a partnered on board, which was an NGO by Dr. Kiran Bedi. It was called as I think it's called as India Vision Foundation, and we enabled the concept was actually behind the life of a common child, and whatever we earned out of it was actually been given to India Vision Foundation. And very soon this year you will hear on something on the similar lines, which would be much more bigger in that ways. So to enable making payments online, we'll go all over the board and tie up with these NGOs, whether it's the same NGO or even if it's something else. We're very happy to do that.
Great. Well, a little bit about startups and the business mechanism that's happening here in India. India being the hub of startups right now. So, is there anything store from PayU for them in terms of some small plans or packages for startups who cannot afford a very heavy website or cannot afford so much in payment gateways?
Absolutely. My CEO and we have two co-founders, and he was actually a startup runner. I mean, before that he was an investment banker, and so he loves startups. In fact, one of our values, we have 7 values in the company, and one of the values that is actually entrepreneurship. So now said that, today PayU India would probably have the largest merchant base. That means that we work with somewhere around 75,000 websites in the country whom we provide our payment gateway services. So tomorrow, suppose a person says that I don't have a website and I just want to collect payments online, we will give him a website in less than 3 hours. So we have our tools ready, which can enable to create a website very soon. It's called as a web front, and a web store in case it's a stored website. And we provide them payment gateway services. Obviously, with due respect, we do all the KYC at the back end so that to eliminate the frauds. But we are very, very open, and we support a lot of the startup community.
What's the transaction charges for if it's in a model of e-retail, e-commerce, someone selling some commodity?
I am not too sure, but I think it would be somewhere around the industry standards of 2% or something. They're mentioned on my website.
2% of the cost?
Yes.
That's great.
But still, it's acting as a backbone for the person who's selling everything online. So it's not about the cost, if you ask me very honestly, it's about the convenience and the service, and about the facility that
No, I'm talking in terms of cost for a startup who is there to compete with the big elephants. So for that particular person, options such as yours would be a great benefit.
Sure.
So the cost would matter.
I certainly agree. It does matter, but I'm saying that it's not a showstopper, or it's not something which the person, what we have learned from our experiences, are reluctant about it. Because if you go to, say, any other financial institution asking for a payment gateway, the BG itself amount is that high, which is a bank guarantee amount, is that high, that your loan interest is much higher, right? That's number one. Number two is that in case you go with other players who are existing, you're going to get a PG in 6 to 9 months, right? Now, for a person who's startup, the only thing that he wants to buy in life is time. That's the reason he's a startup. Otherwise, he would have been an organization by now, right? So we completely eliminate his time factor. We reduce his time to market. We're saying, less than a day, you're up and live.
So that's the time taken?
Yes.
24 to 48 hours?
Yes, we have made live our education institutions in a day.
All right. And which other sectors apart from education sector you think would really make sense for your organization?
For the verticals where we operate in, another very interesting business line where we have seen a lot of traction happening are actually society and real estate payments. So today, majority of the people who make their payments for a real estate is through an NEFT or a local runner-up scenario, which is like an offline mode. Right. And NEFT and RTGS are fantastic tools, but it comes with its own limitations. Like you can't make payments on weekends, and there's a time by 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. depending upon the bank you work with. It's not a 24/7 facility what I'm trying to hit. Or it's an offline payment mode. Offline payment mode is that you're sitting here, you'll call up your developer saying that, hey, you know what, can you come and collect a check of 500,000 rupees as my payment? And then he'll send a runner to you, collect his, there's a lot of operations cost involved in it. We have gone live with probably 42 real estate companies in the country. MR, some of the names being MR, we are live with MR, MGF, then there's companies like JP, then there's companies like ILD, and a lot of these names which are very, very big names who use our payment gateway services. That is another very big area which we are seeing traction in. We only offer net banking payments in that case, in that kind of scenario, and people just make the payments online, and it's so simple. You don't have to remember anything. You don't have to, send a runner to. Right. There's no risk involved in it, and it's just instant confirmation.
And your tie-up is with the issuers of the bank, all banks?
Yes. So there are two sets. There is an issuer and there's an acquirer. Now, as per the guidelines of the country, we are not allowed to be the processor. So at the back end, we work with acquirers. Acquirers being a bank who have the facility to acquire a transaction, likes of HDFC, Citi, SBI, Axis of the world. Right. And yes, we have tie-ups with all the major issuers, which are our net banking partners. I believe there are somewhere around 45 or 46 net banking banks that we have as partners. So if you are a HDFC or whatever bank account holder, you can come and transact your payment through net banking.
Great. And the one and only one-time password regulator being RBI, so
yes,
you're still
that is mandatory. That. So whatever the process is, we certainly follow that. We respect that. Yes, we do a lot of innovations around it. So I'll give you a very small example. We learned that mobile transactions, around 31% of transactions were failing because of one-time password. Because it's a tedious job, right? You're in the middle of an app, making a transaction, you're going to receive an OTP, exit the app, go to your SMS box, read the OTP, come back or remember it or write it or whatever. What we've done is we've actually eliminated this process completely. We say you're in the middle of the app, you just press OTP, the OTP will be received within the app, you say activate OTP, OTP will be typed on that area, transaction processed. That's wonderful. It's seamless. Yeah, it is. So with this, there are certain case studies which support this entire thing. We have seen the success rates going high as good as 15%, which is a very big number for a mobile transaction. Right. So, but yeah, we keep on doing these innovations. Very happy to do that. Very happy when our clients kind of appreciate us and accolade us for this reason. But yeah, mobile transactions are being picking up in the country now.
This is really very innovative that you have done.
Thank you.
Anything else you would like to add?
I think that's predominantly about it. I think it's a long way for us to go for everybody in operating in the payments ecosystem today, and we would need a lot of support from everybody in the ecosystem. It's just not about me and you trying to change. It's like I would not say it's a revolution. That's a pretty heavy word, but I think it's a contribution that everybody have to make and accept to collect these payments and facilitate these payments online. It's going to be macro environment, and the best part is it lies within the vision of the country, because as per our RBI guidelines and as per regulators, everybody is aiming towards a cashless economy. Now that is going to happen when everything starts happening electronically, right? Everything is transparent. Yes, absolutely. So I think everybody has a role to play there, and the request would be for all to start contributing and start collecting payments online.
That's already happening. Great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.